I'm Claudia Springer. I teach English and Film Studies at Framingham State University in Massachusetts. The title of my paper is Unmasking Fascism and Promoting Anti-Fascism with Films. "A shoe doesn't belong on your head," exclaims Government Minister Mason in a speech to an assembled crowd in the 2013 science fiction film Snowpiercer, directed by Bong Joon-ho. They're in the back of a train carrying the last surviving humans on the frozen, uninhabitable Earth in the year 2031. Mason's speech reminds the grimy crowd that she and her elite cohort at the front of the train think of them as a lower order. She has arrived from the front after a desperate man named Andrew lobbed his shoe at an elite, and his swift punishment consists of having his arm forced through an opening into the extreme cold until it freezes. His agony warns the others to keep their place in the train's squalid rear section, to which they've been relegated for 17 years. "I belong to the front," she explains. "You belong to the tail. When the foot seeks the place of the head, the sacred line is crossed. Know your place. Keep your place. Be a shoe." And now I'll show you this short scene.
Passengers, this is not a shoe. This is disorder. This is size 10 chaos. See this? This is death. In this locomotive we call home, there is one thing that between our warm hearts and the bitter cold. Clothing? Shields? No. Order. Order is the barrier that holds back the frozen death. We must, all of us, on this train of life, remain in our allotted station. We must, each of us, occupy our preordained particular position. Would you wear a shoe on your head? Of course you wouldn't wear a shoe on your head. A shoe doesn't belong on your head. A shoe belongs on your foot. A hat belongs on your head. I am a hat. You are a shoe. I belong on the head. You belong on the foot. Yes, so it is. In the beginning, order was prescribed by your ticket. First class, economy, and freeloaders like you. Eternal order is prescribed by the sacred engine. All things flow from the sacred engine. All things in their place. All passengers in their section. All water flowing, all heat rising pays homage to the sacred engine in its own particular, preordained position. So it is. Now, as in the beginning, I belong to the front. You belong to the tail. When the foot seeks the place of the head, a sacred line is crossed. Know your place. Keep your place. Be a shoe. Well, we have 42 seconds left, so we could go to a comment of Mr. Wilfred, the divine keeper of the sacred engine. Sir, Mr. Wilfred? Are you there? Are you there, sir? Oh, it's breaking up. Oh well. Mr. Wilfred's a very busy man. So it is.
Mason's reference to preordained positions for all sums up the fascistic system controlling the train. Her words, spoken with maniacal conviction by the actor Tilda Swinton, reveal a fascist tendency to use body metaphors, the head, hand, fist, boot, eyes, heart, to naturalize totalitarian forms of control that rely on intimidation and terror. Under fascism, the dictatorial head controls the subordinate body. The hand labors for the good of the state, and the fist and the boot fight for it. Vigilant eyes watch for disloyalty, and the heart beats eternally to perpetuate the state's survival. Individual bodies, individual lives, are disposable as long as the organism, the state, persists. These kinds of corporeal metaphors, with their insidious implications, peppered Italian fascist and Nazi documents and speeches. And they have recently reappeared globally with the rise of frightening neo-fascist groups and governments. In response, we can use anti-fascist pedagogy to unmask fascism's brutality and false promises. Fascist discourse often used body metaphors to control people. For example, in 1926, Benito Mussolini addressed his governing chamber after he had survived an assassination attempt, saying, quote, "Everything has been prepared to enable fascism to continue under all conditions, to hold the destinies of the Italian people in its iron fist," end quote. Mussolini's words conjure up an image of a gigantic, invincible fist hovering over millions of Italian people. The chamber gave him a standing ovation and rousing applause. The New York Times reported that, quote, "Several speakers voiced the nation's indignation at the insane attempt to murder the premier and its relief that he was only slightly wounded and was now completely recovered," end quote. Whether he had really completely recovered is irrelevant, because Mussolini's words proclaimed that his indestructible body would ensure fascist control of Italy eternally. Hitler also favored body metaphors, using particularly caustic ones to demonize Jewish people. His favorite trope identified Jews with diseases, infecting and destroying the national German body. In one of his examples from Mein Kampf, one of many examples, Hitler writes that, quote, "The Jew is and remains the typical parasite, a sponger who, like a noxious bacillus, keeps spreading as soon as favorable mediums invite him," end quote. Historian Richard Königsberg explains that Hitler viewed Germany as a national organism which constitutes a substance of flesh and blood. Hitler fortified Nazi ideology by blaming Jewish pestilence for contaminating the healthy German body, as theorist Slavoj Žižek points out when he says, quote, "Because fascism does not work, and because the reason for its difficulties cannot lie in the antagonistic relation between head and hand, between capital and labor, the cause of the social disequilibrium is projected onto some cancerous formation, an external enemy. These are the Jews or another foreign people," end quote. I have found in the film studies classes I teach that films can spark productive classroom discussions about fascism. Films work especially well to concretize abstract concepts and decode metaphors. Bodies appear to exist on screen. They can be both perceptible and metaphorical, reinforced by a film's mise en scène, cinematography, editing, and sound. While body metaphors are not abhorrent in themselves, they become dangerous and misleading in fascist rhetoric, where they disguise brutality as a normally functioning organic system. But the same metaphors can be turned against fascism, as they are in Snowpiercer. When I teach Snowpiercer, I find that students recognize the film as an allegory for fascism, with a train serving as a microcosm for the rigid class-based system of oppression that separates the haves from the have-nots, uses education to brainwash the children of the elite and entertainment to distract them, exploits the have-nots for their labor, maintains order with violence, and orchestrates periodic rebellions against the system with charade revolutions that release pent-up rage and justify retaliatory killings that keep the underclass in check. When Andrew in Snowpiercer hurls his shoe at an elite official, the immediate response from the front parallels Mussolini and Hitler's playbook by asserting that the head will always rule the foot. "So it is," Mason repeats several times. She punishes Andrew's transgression by mangling him to emphasize that his body is vulnerable and meaningless, while the leader's bodies are unbreakable and everlasting. After Mason's thugs freeze Andrew's arm, they shatter it with a blow from a mallet. His amputation introduces a human limb motif in the film, which exposes more violence with each instance. In the scene that you saw, the film directs our sympathies to Andrew as we watch with horror along with our on-screen back-of-the-train surrogates. By editing between Mason, the thugs, close-ups of Andrew screaming in agony and the assembled crowd, the film illustrates succinctly how the ruling system maintains control with violence and intimidation, all the while claiming that their power is sacred and eternal. A twist near the film's end reveals another way the ruling system maintains control, by creating the illusion that rebellious uprisings can succeed. After Curtis, played by Chris Evans, leads a revolutionary group on a bloody march to the front of the train, he discovers that Wilford, played by Ed Harris, the train's dictator, had actually planned the revolt and wants Curtis to become his successor. Fascism manipulates everything, even its opposition. The film's solution is to destroy the train and everyone in it, except for two survivors, a young Korean woman and a male African-American child who bravely enter a new world after the train, the fascist system, has been annihilated. Snowpiercer's director was not trying to be historically accurate or explain the rise of 20th century fascist movements. Films that simplify and misrepresent actual fascist dictatorships mislead viewers, as political scientist Michael Genovese argues. Writing in 1984, he criticized films that give skewed representations of Hitler or Mussolini's regimes. Historical accuracy matters. However, films need not depict actual dictatorships. What I'm proposing is that analyzing a concept such as body metaphors in a film can encourage students to discuss fascist belief systems that persisted after Hitler's and Mussolini's downfalls. We need to be able to spot their rhetorical devices. A science fiction film such as Snowpiercer has the added advantage of projecting fascist ideology into the future, where it has produced a dystopian disaster. Its imagery extrapolates from the present in stark, compelling terms. Working differently from science fiction, comedy has the potential to puncture and deflate fascist dogma. Film comedies can expose fascist lies by revealing their absurdity and encouraging laughter, which is a powerful antidote to fear. Mikhail Bakhtin makes this point in his 1965 study of carnivalesque humor as an irreverent rejection of unjust social rules, Rabelais and his world. There is a thin line, however, between satirical humor and disrespect, and for this reason, Holocaust educators continue to debate whether it's acceptable to make fun of Nazi horrors. Professor of education theory Michalinos Zembalas, for one, argues for the value of laughter as a source of resistance and power. Laughter, he writes, quote, performs two important functions in inviting deep thinking about the Holocaust. First, laughter moves the Holocaust from a transcendent phenomenon to an imminent event, situated in the realm of human action and worthy of understanding so as to prevent it from happening again. Second, laughter builds strength and endurance by restoring a potential loss of dignity and gives a widened perspective in dealing with the incomprehensible, end quote. Laughing at body metaphors can be especially powerful because laughter itself is a bodily act. We claim control over our bodies when we peal with laughter. An example is a scene from the 1997 film Life is Beautiful, directed by and starring Roberto Benigni. Whatever you think of the film as a whole, there is one scene that captivated my students in an Italian film class. In it, the Jewish Guido, played by Benigni, impersonates an Italian fascist education minister visiting a classroom. I'll show the last part of this short scene in which Benigni illustrates the absurdity of racial theories of superiority. Notice the ironic disconnect between his hilarious references to his body and the deadly serious fascist slogan near him, Libro e moschetto, fascisto perfetto, meaning book and rifle make the perfect fascist. And the letters DUX are referenced to Duce, or leader, a title used by Mussolini. And here is this short scene.
Il signor ispettore, come sapete, è venuto da Roma per parlarci del manifesto della razza, firmato dagli più illuminati scienziati italiani. Egli, e noi ne siamo onorati, ci dimostrerà che la nostra razza è una razza superiore, la migliore di tutte. Seduti, bambini? Prego, ispettore.
La nostra razza, vero?
È superiore.
Certo. Grazie, la nostra razza è superiore. Appunto, sono venuto da Roma testè ora per venire a dirvi a ciò che voi sappiate, bambini, che la nostra razza è superiore. Sono stato appunto scelto io dagli scienziati razzisti italiani a ciò che dimostrarvi quanto la nostra razza sia superiore. Perché, bambini, hanno scelto me? Ma dico, c'è bisogno di dirlo. Dove lo trovate uno più bello di me? Dove lo trovate uno più bello di me? Giustamente si è fatto il silenzio. Voi avete davanti un'originale razza superiore, ariana purissima. Bambini, partiamo da una cosa che uno magari dice che vuoi che sia, no? L'orecchio. Guardate qua, guardate la perfezione di questo orecchio. Padiglione auricolare sinistro con campanula pendente finale. Guardate che roba! Cartilagine mobile, pieghevole. Trovatemi due orecchi più belli di questi, io me ne vado, per carità, però me li dovete far vedere. In Francia se le sognano due orecchie così. Bambini, le razze esistono, e come? Ma andiamo avanti, vi voglio far vedere un'altra cosa, bambini. Attenzione.
Ha detto ispettore? Ispettore! Da Roma?
Da Roma. L'ombelico! Guardate che bello ombelico! Che nodo! Ma non si snoda neanche coi denti! Ci hanno provato gli scienziati razzisti! Niente, non si snoda! Questo è l'ombelico italiano della nostra razza! Guardate che roba! Guardate la muscolatura! Cipite! Bicipite! Tricipite! Guardate che bellezza! Guardate l'anca! Guardate che movimento! Guardate che roba! Signori, io ora vi saluto, vero? Perché me ne devo andare con l'appuntamento, mi è venuto proprio in mente ora. Devo fare un'uscita ariana. Io vi saluto, arrivederci l'ombelico! Principessa, ci vediamo a Venezia.
Guido demonstrates the gap between inflated fascist body language and our actual lived-in bodies. Standing in front of the class in his underwear, he has done more than disrobe. He has stripped away fascist trappings, except for the Italian tricolor sash stuck awkwardly between his legs. Because of this scene, several of my students chose to write their research papers on education in fascist Italy. Guido's anatomical lesson prompted them to investigate what historian Robert Paxton calls the anatomy of fascism, in other words, its inner workings. Their new knowledge can help them identify and reject current neo-fascist rhetoric for the violence it inflicts on our bodies, both metaphorical and real. Thank you.